Hello, everybody, and welcome into the Apples and Genos Fantasy Hockey Podcast. My name is Nate Groot-Niblink. I'm the creator of Apples and Genos, originator of the Zero G Draft Strategy, and in this podcast, Blake and I are going to talk about the biggest hot shots and have-nots. Is that right, Blake? That's not right. We're going to talk
Yeah,
some
you're,
waiver
you're
wire
close.
stuff. I copied the wrong stuff over. It's a mess already, but let's hit the intro. Well, if anyone was wondering how little editing I actually do on this podcast, they now have their answer. But the good news is that I have your friend and my best friend, Blake Creamer, here to share in my dismal start to this. Blake, how are you feeling tonight?
Dang, I'm rattled. Oh my God. This man's human. I didn't think it was true, but oh geez, you know what? It's everybody's human, all right. Even Nate Grudniblik people, all right. So, be nice. But buddy, I'm feeling very good. You know what I want to do? I want to shout out our 1,000th Discord member. Oh my God. I posted something on the Twitter. I was promoting our 1,000th Discord member would get a free oven mitt. And I was true to my word. I sent this man 2 beautiful oven mitts with the Apples and Genos apple and a picture of Macho Man for cream of the crop. And he was kind enough to send a picture in the Discord. Check out my Twitter if you're interested. This man is a legend. He's a treasure, and he must be protected at all costs. Thank you for your service, my man. How you doing, Nate? How was your game tonight?
The game was all right. I haven't played since Christmas. I was sick last week, so I didn't play last week. So yeah, I haven't played since Christmas break. It's probably been like 3 or 4 weeks already at this point. So it was a little bit of that. The legs were there in the first period, but started to disappear on me towards the back end of the game. So I think you were saying that I had to hit 10 shots on goal per 60. I didn't get there with the shots on goal, but I had the attempts. I
Okay, the
ripped
Corsi
one.
Ford was good. Okay.
Yeah, I ripped one about 3 inches over the crossbar from a sharp angle. So at least I have that story to tell that I almost took the goalie's head off with one. So
There you go.
that's
That's
about
nice.
as good as it gets for me on most nights anyway. So, well, Blake, let's not waste any more time. Let's get into some newsies.
Newsies. Oh, and you know what? If we have some time, we'll talk about the hot shots and have-nots at the end. All right.
All right.
Just to help Nate out and with the intro there. There you go. All right, let's move on. Okay, newsies. We're gonna fly because there's a crap ton of news, and I'm already wasting time. Okay. In Anaheim, big news there. Big injury news. Trevor Zegras and Pavel Mintyukov, the fresh maker. These guys will not be playing for the team anytime soon. Zegras busted his ankle, falling awkwardly into the boards. That sucks. He's going to be out 6 to 8 weeks. And then in the same game, Pavel Mintyukov separated his shoulder, and he's going to be out for 6 weeks. So that really sucks. Just with Drysdale getting moved out of town, Mintyukov looked like he was primed to get back on power play one and kind of give us that value that he was giving us earlier in the year. So that really sucks. So it's going to be Cam Fowler season, that late night beauty. Oh, buddy, join my fantasy team, won't you? All right, you got nothing else to do. Cam Fowler, come on my team. All right, thank you very much. Let's move on. I got to talk about Seth Jones of the Chicago Blackhawks. He was a full participant in Blackhawks practice and could possibly return on Saturday in absolutely irrelevant fantasy news. So there you go. He's probably going to be the quarterback power play one. Did they even call it a power play in Chicago anymore, Nate?
I don't know.
Play,
It doesn't
right?
look like it if you watch it.
Yeah, it's just a play. Yeah, right. You're on, play one. You're on play two. There's no power is what I'm getting at. All right. But Seth Jones is going to be back. He's going to give you some periffs. He's going to play pretty much the whole game. So, yeah, there's some value there. Let's move on into Pittsburgh. Riley Smith is going to be out longer term, as per head coach Mike Sullivan. He's got an upper body injury. So, yeah, that really sucks for him. So, it's just going to keep the floor high on players like Raquel, and Brian Rust, both of whom have a garbage schedule this upcoming week, which we will talk about. But there you go. Lots of news coming out of Winnipeg. Rick Bonus gave us a bunch of gems today, so we got to go through some of those. Kyle Connor, Kyle Connor? He's skating again with the team in a non-contact jersey, so that's great news. We don't have a return date as of yet, but it sounds like he's right on schedule, if not like at the early part of his timeline there. So that's really good news. Mark Scheifele. Hi, Mark. He's going to be potentially out with a lower body injury. So we have to wait for game time there. But Bonus isn't ruling him out for Saturday's game. So he's day-to-day. And then, of course, in practice today, Nikolaj Ehlers left. He had some discussions with the coaches and then was taken off the ice. Sounds like precautionary reasons, but he got an upper body injury of some kind during practice. So sounds like the plan is to have him play on Saturday, but we have to check the lineup before the game. And then lastly, Bonus did mention, this is just a FYI, Mom Spaghetti, Cole Perfetti, apparently his wrist is not 100%. And they're being really careful with him, especially taking faceoffs. So just something of note. I mean, a wrist injury, we need our wrists to shoot the puck, don't we? So, yeah, just be aware that Cole Perfetti is dealing with a wrist injury and, I don't know, do with that what you will, okay? Dear God, what the hell's going on in Winnipeg? Let's move on to Columbus Blue Jackets. It's Finger Merzlikins good. Huh? Are you with me?
All right. I get it. I see what you did there.
Down in the thank you. I actually wrote the joke down in the show notes, so I didn't forget. That's where
Just because it was that good.
Yeah, exactly, because it's elite, basically. Anywho, let's move on. So lots of stuff going on with Elvis Merzlikins. Sounds like him and the team have sort of come to a mutual agreement that he's probably going to get traded. He says he's not a number 3 goalie, which I agree with absolutely. But Pascal Vincent, I don't know, buddy. What's the opposite of Coach of the Year? I don't know, because I think Pascal Vincent is the front runner. I don't know what's going on, but he's just alienating everybody on the team and pissing everybody off. So there you go. That's great. But sounds like Daniil Tarasov is going to be getting the bulk of the starts moving forward. They want to assess what they have there with that goaltender. So a trade is most likely imminent. And, we'll talk about Merzlikins a little bit later, but I think this is a really viable option, depending on where he goes. As long as he's the number 1 there, I think this is a guy we should be adding. As a speculative, I have a hard time saying that word. I'm just going to say spec. As a spec ad, I think Merzlikins is probably going to give us some value moving forward. So let's keep an eye on that situation. Moving over to Buffalo, Big Tage Thompson. He's getting some imaging done. He was injured late in the game there in their last game, but could potentially be an option for Saturday. Don Granato, the head coach, mentioned that. So it doesn't sound like it's too bad, but we didn't yet get the update on that imaging. So keep an eye out for that tomorrow or today as you're listening, right? And then staying with Buffalo, Jeff Skinner, the twirly woo, he's going to be out week to week with an upper body injury. So Jack Quinn has taken his spot on power play 1. So that's a nice little piece if you're looking for, a Buffalo player. Also, Casey Olstat, he's been taking some reps on the top line there with Alex Tuck and Big Tage. So his floor is going to be fine. Nate, you still loving Casey Olstat or what?
Yeah, you gotta love it. Anytime you can get a guy who's shooting exactly 1 time per game over his last 3 games, you gotta go out and at him.
Oh my God, just so petty, aren't you, Nate? Damn it! This is late night, Nate. This is unfiltered, raw, uncut Nate right here. All right, that's what's happening. Yeah, shout out to Casey Mittelstadt, big fan of the show. All right, over to Ottawa. Anton Forsberg had to be helped off the ice last night in Ottawa's game. He's been subsequently put on long-term injured reserve, so sucks for him. I guess it's good for Korpisalo, right? He's going to be the man for the time being. Mads Sogard was called up as well into Ottawa, so he'll get some starts. He's going to back up Corpy there. But, it's been rough to say the least there in Ottawa, just in terms of their performance. And now, losing Anton Forsberg, that sucks. Now I'm sticking with Ottawa. Shane Pinto is going to be returning soon. The Pinto Bean! Buddy, I still don't really know what happened with Shane Pinto. I don't think anybody does, but he's eligible to return on January 21st, and it sounds like that's going to be the case. He's going to get in right away, according to Jacques Martin. So that's good news for the Senators. I mean, can't get worse, right? And Josh Norris is still out. He's day-to-day, no timeline there. That sucks, but what are you going to do? He's doing nothing right now. Let's move on to Washington. We're still going. Ovechkin, Big Ovi. He's touch and go, as per Spencer Carberry. And there's a back-to-back coming up for the team, and chances are he's probably going to miss one of those games. I mean, if he's battling an injury, I could see him only playing one of those 2. So just keep an eye on his status moving into the games here. Tom Wilson is still recovering from a broken nose, and he's a game-time decision for their next game, but it sounds like he almost played this last game here, so I think he's more on the probable side. Sounds like he wants to play. He's just dealing with kind of pain management. So there you go. Suck it up, Tommy. I don't know what I'm talking about. I've never had my nose broken before. All right, but I've broken some noses. Am I right, Nate? I don't even know.
I'll trust your word on that.
No, thank you for backing me up on that. I appreciate that. Okay, let's move on. Pyotr Kochetkov left last night's game after a collision, and he's in the concussion protocol now. So that sucks for him, but it's, again, good for Antti Ranta. He's going to be the man there. Kochetkov's out indefinitely. So I think Ranta's an ad. I know he's played like crap this year, but Carolina's team metrics are elite. They're the best in the league. Corsi against, Corsi for. They're doing it, right? They just need some performances from Ranta. And I think getting waived is probably going to hopefully help his situation, and knowing that there's no one coming to take his starts. So I'd add Ranta. That's my 2 cents on that. And then over to Minnesota, they had some good news there. Their practice today, Kirill Kaprizov, Jonas Brodin, and Philip Gustafsson, the Gus Bus. They're all back on the ice for the practice. And Coach Jay Hines, that tall drink of water, he said how they respond today is going to go a long ways to seeing when they return. That sounds like common sense. But Gustafsson could actually be an option on Saturday, according to the coach. So keep an eye on that. That's good news, but it's nice to see Cap skating. I think he should be viable this week. Love to hear it. All right, because I got him on three teams. I need that man back in my lineup. We're almost done, folks. Lots of news here. All right. Over to Anaheim. John Gibson has an upper body injury. So Dostal, he's the last man standing. Are you adding Dostal, Nate?
I mean, if we get word that Gibson's going to be out for any length of time, then sure. I don't know that I'm really interested in Dostal as a short term, but if you're in a league that has pretty forgiving points set up for goalies, and you know that Dostal's going to get a lot of starts, then you could probably do worse.
All right, that's high praise right there. That's going on the business card for Dostal. In Vegas, goalie news: Aiden Hill still not 100%. Kind of an interesting situation. The head coach put out a pretty lengthy explanation as to what happened there. I'm going to give you the Coles notes, but basically he was supposed to start when Thompson fell ill, but he wasn't really feeling it. He got on the ice, wasn't feeling 100%, so they took him off. He has been cleared medically, but it's just Aiden Hill. He's not comfortable with the situation. He doesn't feel right, so there's not really a timeline, but because he was almost ready to go in, I think it should be sooner rather than later. So just keep an eye on that situation. The coach is just waiting for the green light to get this man back in action. Sticking with the tendies, the spicy tendies, Linus Ullmark is day-to-day after being injured in the game against the Coyotes, and then Jeremy Swayman comes in and gets the L. Oh, God, that sucks for Swayman. Fantasy owners, he lets in one goal and gets the L. That's showing no good. But the good news is Ullmark is traveling with the team, so there's a chance he plays on that road trip. Jake Ottinger is back. He was back in the game tonight. I got pumped for 4 goals, so thanks for the return. That sucks. That reminds me of when Jesper Wallstad came in and gets trucked for 7 goals. Oh, that's not good. But whatever. I don't know where I'm digressing there. Martin Necas of the Carolina Hurricanes, he's close to returning as per Rod the Bod Brindamore, so keep an eye on that. And then lastly, Justin Falk has been activated off the IR, so that's good news. He's a beefer. He's going to cover those categories for you. Currently Colton Parayko was getting power play 1. Dear God, is that the state in St. Louis right now? They're actually doing pretty well. How about our boy Kyrou, Nate? This man's flying right now.
Yeah, it's St. Louis. I mean, it's kind of a weird game. They got outshot a lot, but Kyrou put together a hat trick. Parayko actually, seems like did pretty well on power play 1, all things considered. I don't know how long that might last, but I mean, it's worth a speculative ad in a lot of cases. Parayko's a guy who fills out all the categories for you, so you can definitely do worse there.
Now you're just kicking dirt in my face, Nate. All right, you're saying the word speculative. All right, you saw me struggling, and now you're just ripping it out like it's no thing. All right, that's fine. Anywho, that's it for the newsies, folks. Let's get into what this week looks like. Nate, take it away, my man.
All right, so Monday we got 10 games, Tuesday 8 games, Wednesday 3 games, Thursday 10 games, Friday 4 games, Saturday is the heaviest night with 12 games, and then Sunday we're back to 6 games. So this is 53 games in total, fairly normal week overall. 6 teams have a Monday, Tuesday back-to-back to open the week, so you got tons of options if you want to go that route, and you probably do have some space. The Monday heavy night is still only 10 games, so there's a decent chance you have some room on that night. So yeah, Monday, Tuesday, back-to-back, real option to open the week. And you've got Anaheim, Colorado, LA, the Islanders, San Jose, and Seattle, who all play Monday and Tuesday to open the week. You got 4 teams that go Monday, Wednesday to open the week. So that is obviously Monday being the heavy night, which is not the way it usually goes, but Monday with the 10-game slate, but then Wednesday with the 3-game slate. So it could be of use to you. Buffalo, Florida, Montreal, New Jersey. And then you got Chicago as the only team with a Tuesday, Wednesday back to back to open the week, both of those on off nights. So that might be of use to you as well if you're trying to get ahead in the early part of your week. Then you run into 4 teams with Wednesday, Friday off nights. Chicago's here again, along with Detroit, Florida, and New Jersey. 4 teams with Friday, Sunday off nights. That's Carolina, Detroit, Minnesota, and the Islanders. Um, Quite honestly, this is the best streaming week of the season so far. Like, Blake, I don't know. Can you remember any streaming weeks we've had that's been this good?
No, and I feel unprepared for this because it's like, oh, I actually have options now. This is amazing. Where it's, it felt like every other streaming week was like, all right, get the off nights, and here we go.
Yeah, in some ways, this week the challenge is going to be to go through all of the available options and actually try to figure out what's best. A lot of times, the tougher weeks, it's actually pretty linear. Like, okay, is there one person from either of these 2 teams? If not, then I'm kind of screwed already.
Yep.
But yeah, definitely a week where you're going to have a lot of optionality, a lot of things that you can do. Like I said, the Monday with 10 games, pretty easy to stream from. Thursday is also a 10-game slate, so you probably can actually get in people on that night as well. So you got pretty good chances to get players in even on 2 of the heavy nights this week, which makes, which just really opens up your week if that is the reality for you. So definitely go through, like we always say, go through, set your lineup for the week, see what you got available, what nights you have open spaces, see what you need to fill up, and take it from there. All right, Blake, why don't you head us on into the worst teams to stream from, teams that we might be looking to drop players from this week?
Yeah, you bet, buddy. I'm super stoked on this week. Sometimes, even before I get into that, sometimes what I like to do, and I don't know about you, Nate, but do you ever separate the week kind of into, first half and then second half? So, like, the best for me would be like grab a Monday, Wednesday, or in this case, like, Monday, Tuesday, or whatever, and then grab a Thursday, Friday, Sunday, or something like that. 2 moves, 5 games, bang. That's
Yeah.
what you want. So, yeah, I don't know. Do you ever kind of split up the week like that?
Yeah, that's definitely a great way to go about it. You know, you can debate depending on what you need to use your moves for.
Yep.
Sometimes you can use one move to get a player that'll get into all 4 games for you. That's obviously really good. Only one move to get 4 games. And then if you can use 2 moves to get 5 games, that's usually about the second best you can possibly
Yeah.
get. So it's definitely a good way to go about it.
Love it. All options this week. All right, let's get into these teams. There are 3 of them that have really crappy schedules. So they are the Pittsburgh Penguins, the Winnipeg Jets, and the Columbus Blue Jackets. Pittsburgh is the worst. They do have 2 games with both of them on busy nights. So 2 games with 0 off nights. So the players that we're potentially looking at, like the fringe players there, the potential drops, Brian Rust, Raquel got to do it for the second time because I can. All right. We have a podcast. I have a mic in my face. That's a problem. All right. And you're listening, folks. All right. So it's on you. Okay. And then Riley Smith, he's because of his injury, like that's an easy drop to me, or put into your IR plus, no question. So of those players, what are you doing, Nate? What are you doing with those 3 players? Are you holding any of them through a 2-game week?
Yeah, I'm definitely trying to. Raquel, in my opinion, has played so
Yeah.
well since his return from injury and has been stapled to the top line and top power play there that there's no way I'm dropping Raquel. Rust is more of a consideration, but he's definitely the next guy up for the power play if anyone ever got injured on the top power play, and he's a fixture in the top 6. He kills penalties a ton. He's just skating a ton of minutes every single night, so he's got a lot of use. Um, in a 10-team league, you're probably dropping Rust. In a 12-team league, I'm probably trying to keep them as long as I can get good streams elsewhere and, making sure I'm not getting absolutely destroyed in games played by my opponent for the week. Yeah, I'm trying to hang on to Rust, definitely hanging on to Raquel.
Yeah, absolutely agree. And something about these 3 teams as well, just a side note here, they all play one of their games on either Monday or Tuesday. So because of how good this week is for streaming, like you don't necessarily need to drop these guys on a Monday to go pick up a player that has a better schedule, right? You might want to hold one of these players until after their game is played, even the Tuesday, right? And then you can make some moves from that point on, because there's just going to be so many options, from every single day from Wednesday, pretty much to Sunday, besides the busy Saturday, right? So anyways, take that for what it's worth. You got some on that, Nate?
Yeah, I just think in a lot of weeks you might actually miss out on players if you do that, because
Mm.
you hold somebody through the first day or two of the week. Everybody else is making their moves for the full week, and you're missing out on all the best streamers by doing that. But in a week like this, where there's so much optionality throughout the week, you don't have to feel like you have to get the prime streamers from day one of the week. So it is a week where that's a much more viable strategy than it is usually.
Absolutely. All right. So there you go. Let's move on to Winnipeg. They also play 2 games with 1 off night. And the bubble players there, Neil Pionk, Gabriel Velarde, the Velarde Party, Mom Spaghetti, Cole Perfetti, and Nino Niederreiter. Yes, it is Ned Niederlander. So of those players, Nate, what are you doing with these players? Like, I think Pionk to me is pretty easy drop. Niederreiter probably as well. I think it's Velarde and Perfetti are the 2 that people are going to have questions on. And what are you doing with those players?
Yeah, I think that Velarde is an obvious hold for me. I'm not getting rid of Velarde based on the deployment. Maybe we'll see when Connor comes back if things get shaken up again and maybe Velarde gets moved around, but I'm inclined to not think so. Perfetti is definitely the one that's more on the edge. He's on a hot streak right now, 4 goals and 5 points in his last 5 games, but still skating under 15 minutes a night.
Yeah.
The underlying numbers are actually not that great overall in this last little stretch. They had been prior to this. And so, yeah, maybe that injury you're talking about, underlying injury, is starting to slow him down. So in that case, even though the pucks have been finding their way in for him, maybe this is a week where you can be off of Perfetti if you do have him.
There you go. Yeah, I would agree with that too. I'm holding Velarde. I'm probably dropping everybody else. Perfetti's definitely, I'm not holding him at all costs. Like, you can
Yeah.
absolutely use him as a streamer. And again, they play on Tuesdays. So maybe you hold Perfetti until Tuesday. If he lights the world up, then you're like, okay, maybe I'll stick it out. But guaranteed, Perfetti's probably not going to make your lineup on the busy Saturday, right? So you're getting 1 game up out of Perfetti. And that doesn't make any sense to me. So, all right, let's move on to the last team here. It's going to be Columbus. And we said 2 games with 2 off nights. The reason we said that is because they play on Monday, which is a 10-game Monday. It's not exactly an off night, but you should be able to get a player in there. So, but then they do play the Friday, which is only 4 games. So we're talking Columbus here. So let's look at some of the players there. Oh God, do we have to? This team stinks. Let's agree on that. But we're looking at John Gaudreau, Adam Fantilli, and Kirill the Thrill Marchenko. I honestly can't, like, people have been asking me about Gaudreau. I can't in good conscience be like, you got to hold him, because his metrics are terrible. Like, he's doing nothing out there. He's not even on the top power play. So where are you at with these players on Columbus here, Nate?
Yeah, if it was me, I probably would have dropped Gaudreau a few weeks ago. His
Yeah.
metrics have been terrible for a hot minute. Um, yeah, the ice time's been up and down. He had that one little, felt like a little bit of a dead cat bounce where he
Yeah.
got lucky on a few goals, and for a few weeks it looked like he was scoring some points again, but the underlying metrics remain terrible through all of that, and now he's back to not scoring any points. I think he's I don't know. By the metrics, it looks
Yeah.
like he's phoning it in, and it's hard to blame him, honestly, with what, in my opinion, Pascal Vincent has done to this team this year, and with all the injuries, of course, as well. It's just a terrible situation once again in Columbus this year. So, yeah, I think honestly, you can pretty safely drop everybody from Columbus.
There you go. All right. Well, that is it for those 3 teams. There are 5 teams with 3 games played and 0 off nights. They're the Boston Bruins, the Nashville Predators, St. Louis Blues, Vancouver Canucks, and the Vegas Golden Knights. So, Nate, I thought we'd do a fun exercise here. Try and keep it quick here, but I'll give you 1 player from each team, and you say keep or drop. Are you with me?
With it.
All right. For Boston, we're talking Pavel Zacha. What are you doing?
I think I'm dropping Zaka. His underlying metrics have been pretty terrible.
Okay, there you go. For Nashville, Gustav Nyquist.
I think I'm holding Nyquist. He's definitely unsustainable right now, but he's so hot, and the Predators are playing well. I think I'd hold on.
Yeah, it's crazy that Nyquist is a hold. Oh, that feels weird, but yeah, this guy's popping off. All right, for St. Louis, Torrance Krug.
Yeah, I'd look to see the lines for the next game and try to get an idea of what the power play deployment's going to be. If he gets back on power play 1, then I'd probably be trying to hold. If he doesn't, then he's a clear drop.
Okay. For the Canucks, bench Kuzi or big Kuzi, either one. Hopefully big Kuzi, but what are you doing with Andrei Kuzmenko?
Yeah, you can drop Kuzmenko in my opinion. No questions asked.
He's a good person, everybody. He's a really good person with a beautiful head of hair. Let's agree on that. But he's definitely fallen out of favor with the head coach. And lastly, for the Vegas, we got to talk about, come on, Bobby. Let's go, Bobby. Ivan Barbashev. What are you doing with Ivan Barbashev, Nate?
Yeah, Barbashev has 0 points his last 5 games, ranks in the 300s in shots per 60. I think you can drop him.
I really didn't have any options for Vegas. I mean, what
Yeah.
what are we gonna do? Are you gonna keep Paul Cotter? Oh, hell no. All right, let's move on. We got to talk about the best teams to stream, or as Nate, dreams about when he's in bed. Creams, dreams, streams. I don't know where I'm going with that, but I kind of like where it's going. So yeah, Nate, it happens to everybody. All right, that's fine. Geez, yeah, we just derailed there. All right, let's move on. So we have some amazing options here, but the team with the actual best schedule is going to be the New York Islanders, that defensive juggernaut, the New York Islanders. Oh my God, I'm being sarcastic, everybody. All right. They are not defensive anymore, but we got a couple players there that we're definitely interested in. So I'm looking at Anders Lee and then Palmieri. What do you think about these two players, and how would you rate them if you're going to pick up those players, Dave?
Yeah, they're somewhat equivalent. So, yeah, they're not. It's not a great option in either direction, in my opinion. Like, they both have 1 goal, 1 assist, 2 points in their last 5 games here. They're both averaging about 15-15 over the last 5 games. Like, Palmieri is the one on the top power play. Anders Lee is the one who's getting the most exposure to Horvat and Barzal, who are the top forwards there outside of Brock Nelson. So they're both getting solid-ish deployment in 2 different directions. Palmieri's got better individual metrics, but Lee has better on ice metrics. Like, it's kind of just a coin flip, in my opinion. You could get lucky either way this week. So, yeah, I don't know if I was forced to make a decision right now. I might go Palmieri just because Lee's hurt me more recently. But
Yeah,
there's nothing to hang your hat on to make a decision one way or the other for sure in the numbers.
he hurt you bad. He hurt your feelings, and that's, you don't do that. All right. If I would have known about this, Nate, I would have been there. I would have taken care of business for you. So I'm sorry about this. I'm sorry you had to go through that. Also keep in mind, the Islanders have done some crazy line juggling recently, and it looked like it held for this last game. So they got Barzal down on the, quote unquote third line, playing with Simon Holmstrom and Kyle Palmieri, and then Anders Lee's with Horvat. So yeah, just check the lineups, go to Game Day Lines on Twitter, check that out. But yeah, the Islanders, it's reasonable. I think Anders Lee better in a bangers league too, if you have that kind of format. He's a beefer and he does that. So there you go. Let's move on. Let's talk about, there's a bunch of teams that have 4 games with 2 off nights. All right. So we'll try and get this fairly quick here, but these teams are the Anaheim Ducks, the Dallas Stars, Minnesota Wild, the New Jersey Devils, the Rangers, the Ottawa Senators, Seattle Kraken, release the Kraken, and the Toronto Maple Leafs. Again, all 4 games played, 2 off nights. Let's rip through these teams here. So, right off the bat, Minnesota Wild and the Seattle Kraken, they both avoid the Saturday heavy nights. So I think that Minnesota and Seattle are really good options for kind of what Nate and I were talking about at the beginning there. Like, if you wanted to separate this streaming week, front loaded and back loaded, like Minnesota and Seattle are great options if you're going to backload, and they both have some really good streaming options. So yeah, there's that. I mean, did you want to add anything to that, Nate, or does that sort of cover it?
Yeah, I think like you were mentioning, Thursday, Friday, Sunday, Minnesota can supply you with that schedule, so that's a good option there. Seattle's more loaded up front, where they go Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, so they could be the upfront piece, and then you could flip to somebody like Detroit, who does the Friday, Sunday, so you could kind of look at it from either way, depending on who's available in your league.
Yeah, no, I love that. And it feels so good when you do it. And then if your players actually hit, oh man, you just feel like you're like Rain Man or something like that. You're just crushing out there. You know what the hell's going on. So anyways, let's rip through these teams. So for Anaheim, We are going to mention Mason McTavish just because we usually try and keep it 50% and under on Yahoo, but McTavish is at 53%. That's no bueno. This guy needs to be rostered a lot higher than that. He's top power play. He's getting good deployment. So, I think McTavish has got to be owned for this week here. Troy Terry as well. I mean, sucks that Zegras went down because, Terry's been kind of rotating centers here recently. Sounds like Leo Carlson is potentially coming back soon. I don't know if it's going to be this week, but he's close to returning, so that's kind of good news, I guess. But anyways, Troy Terry's out there. Cam Fowler, he's at the bar. He's waiting for you to come up to him. All right, he's got nothing to do. Get him in the car and get him in your fantasy team. All right, that's what we do. Alex Killorn, Adam Henrique, Ryan Strome. Any of these guys ringing your bell, Nate?
Yeah, Terry's the one guy that I've been holding the candle for all year. And yeah, I mean, last 3 games here, he's got 4 points. He's been doing the thing a little bit. Obviously, losing Zegras will take a little bit of a bite out of everybody that gets exposure to him. But overall, assuming McTavish has gone in your league, Terry is definitely the next guy up, and I'd actually be pretty interested in him.
Yeah, absolutely. I love Troy Terry. I've got him in a points league, points only league, and I've been holding him through good and bad. I'm just sticking with him. All right, Troy Terry's my guy. All right, I'm going down with the ship. Let's move on. All right, Dallas Stars, the other team, and this is really nice actually because they had a great streaming schedule this week here. So the streamers you picked up from Dallas, you can roll them right into next week if you want to. Right? We're looking at guys like Mason Marchment, Thomas Harley, Wyatt Johnston. I know I had a good conversation with someone just the other day. He's like, I want to get rid of Johnston. It's like, no. I mean, he's not really doing the thing, but still, that's a great streamer. And, unless there's a better one that pops up, like you should probably hold Johnston through this week with that good schedule. And then how about your boy, Tyler Seguin? I don't know what he's rostered at, but Nate, are you loving life over there?
Yeah, we'll talk about Sagan
Oh,
a
God,
little
no.
later on, and I'll get my fair share of gloating in at that point, I'm sure. But yeah, I think he's rostered 63%, so he's pretty highly rostered at this point.
Yep, absolutely. I mean, these players, like Thomas Harley's been interesting to me, like because he didn't get power play 1 right off the bat there, did he? But now he's kind of rocking that power play 1 spot, and he seems locked in there. I think that's a great ad. I was thinking about picking him for my streamer, last week instead of Lafreniere. So I'm glad I didn't. But he's been doing pretty good, and he's getting a ton of ice time. So I like that player a lot. Anywho. Let's move on over to Minnesota. Again, another team that had a great streaming week. You can roll these guys right over. But what about Brock Shalak, Brock Faber? All right. Yeah, he's out there. He's rocking power play 1, and this guy's a beauty. He's actually doing stuff offensively now, which is really nice to see. And, he's been getting blocks. Like, he's had a nice little week, Brock Faber. So I think you can add him. Ryan Hartman had a goal and an assist tonight. I've got him in 3 spots because I missed out on some other Minnesota streamers, and I'm loving it. But he's really been performing. Marco Rossi as well hasn't been performing as well. And then Nate's favorite player, Marcus Johansson. And Nate, did you know that there's a guy on Minnesota named Jacob Lucchini? And Matt Zuccarello is the Zucchini Man.
Wow.
So when Matt Zuccarello was activated off the IR, the Zucchini Man, they sent Jacob Lucchini down. That's something that we should talk about this. I mean, I just wanted to bring attention to this. I mean, is anyone hearing this? Is anyone getting the correlation? I don't know.
Yeah, I definitely think that's a sign of the Illuminati or whatever people say
Something. Yeah,
nowadays.
come on. Yeah, there you go. How do you like these players in Minnesota, Nate?
Yeah, Hartman's interesting. He got up there between Zuccarello and Boldy on the top line. Obviously, if Kaprizov's back, then things are going to get shifted around again. But he's definitely a part of the top 6. Wherever he exactly slots into that is of interest. Rossi got moved down in this game and had to play with Pat Maroon and Frederick Gaudreau, which is
Oh,
obviously
no.
suboptimal. Was still in the top power play, but you have to assume he's the first guy off the power play when Kaprizov is back as well. So yeah, Rossi might actually not be a top player to hang on to for this next week.
Yeah, there you go. Okay. Over to the Devils. We're looking at Dawson Mercer. I don't want to wait for our love to be. Oh God, I'm sorry. It's a long thing. When I do my own pod, I just put the sound clip in there. But when I do it, live, I have to say it. Nate, you ever watched Dawson's Creek?
I've not watched Dawson's Creek, but that was really high up there. Like I'm
Yeah,
quite impressed actually.
buddy.
That
No,
was
I've
an ambitious target and you nailed it.
Thank you very much. It's easy when there's no one around. It's just you and me. I don't think about the people actually listening to this. So there you go.
Hmm.
That's what helps me. But anyways, don't watch Dawson's Creek. It's a terrible show. But he's out there and he's getting a ton of minutes. So I like that. Eric Holla. Oh dear God, Nate. Are you all right, my man? Okay, let's go. Eric Holla, Simone Nemec, and Michael McLeod. Those are your New Jersey Devils that are out there for your streaming pleasure. What say you, Nate? Who's doing it for you out of these players?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. Holla has 5 points his last 5 games. You got
Yep.
Michael McLeod who has 3 goals, 4 points in his last 5 games. They've obviously both been elevated up the lineup with all the injuries that they've been having there. Meyer and Hughes of most note. So McLeod has been centering Toffoli and Bratt, which is obviously a pretty solid place to be. Holla's been on the top line with Heischer and Mercer. Mercer has been really solid, 3 goals, no assists, so only 3 points, but he's been skating 20 minutes a night. Like, you got lots of options in New Jersey suddenly with these injuries that they have currently, and they're actually performing. So I'm not opposed to any of them. I will say, like, McLeod's underlying numbers are not great, as you might expect for a bottom six guy that's getting moved up. He's gotten a little hot here with the added deployment, but I don't expect that it'll continue. Holla's underlying numbers are not as good as honestly they even usually are for him in years past. I don't know
Yep.
what's exactly been going on, but he could still volume his way into some relevance for you for sure. Mercer is the one that I'm the most excited about. 63rd in individual scoring chances, 4/60 over the last 5 games, skating 20 minutes a night. Had a ridiculous goal the other night where he bounced the puck in off the back of Vasilevsky.
Yeah.
And I still can't understand the physics of what exactly happened there, but it was cool to see. So, yeah, I like Mercer a lot, actually, for this upcoming week if you've got the right nights to fit a Devils player onto your team.
Yeah, me too. I think he's up there. He's up there in the streamers that should probably be picked up for this week. All right, moving over to the Rangers. We've got to talk about Keandre Miller, who's still doing the thing to some degree. Yeah, I mean, last 5 games, 0 points, but I don't know, reasonable numbers. I don't know. He has no access to the power play, so that's really going to cap his ceiling, right? And it's not coming anytime soon. Like he's just not that type of player for that team. So anyways, take it for what it's worth. He's a beefer though, amazing in category leagues. But then a guy you should really be looking at is Alexis Lafreniere. This guy is, to me, he's must add. Like regardless of this week, I think this guy's playing well enough at this point and his deployment and who he's playing with. Like he's with Trocheck and Panarin. That's stupid, right? And he's doing stuff there. He's getting a ton of minutes. So to me, Lafreniere is a must add. But where are you at specifically with Lafreniere, Nate?
Yeah, Lafreniere's taken a massive step this year. There's no doubt about that in my mind. He's added another 2 minutes time on ice, which I wasn't sure he'd get. That's a big step. IBP's in line. The shots per 60 way up, like one of
Yep.
the biggest leaps I've honestly ever seen from year to year, even for a young player like in their kind of breakout range. So that's really nice to see. And again, with the individual scoring chances 4/60, like he went from 7.2 last year up to 11.2 this year. It's just massive,
Damn.
the amount that he's elevated it this year. And definitely, I mean, being stapled to Panarin and Trocheck all year has really helped, and having that consistency has really helped. But he's capitalized on it too this year, which is something he'd been completely unable to do in previous years. I don't know what exactly made the light bulb turn on, but it's turned on, and I don't think it's going away anytime soon. Even on the season, if you look at his numbers, like 32nd in the league in individual scoring
Yeah.
chances, 4/60 on the season, like I think it's legit, basically, is what I'm saying at this point. And really, you're looking at a player who, in his first couple of years in the league, shot over 17%. Last year, he shot 12%, and this year he's down below 10% shooting percentage. I think Lafreniere actually has more to give this year, and his on ice shooting percentage isn't that great either. Like, despite playing with Panarin, I really do think that there's actually more to give here from Lafreniere, who's on a 51-point pace right now. I could see like a 30-60 point or 30 goal, 60-point pace from here on out for Lafreniere fairly comfortably, and that wouldn't shock me at all.
Yeah, I love that. And I think a big part of this is the way that Panarin has changed his game. Like that's another piece too. Like, what is this man doing? All of a sudden, he's like a shots on goal per 60 leader. And this is crazy. Like, that's not the game that Panarin has played historically. So, yeah, it changed the dynamic of that line. That's for sure. Like, Trocheck's a setup man now, whereas he was kind of a trigger man before, and it wasn't really working to the best of that they're doing this year. So anyways, love what Panarin's doing. Let's move on. We got to talk about Ottawa next. There's a few options here, Tarasenko being the main one. I mean, you can get Ridley Greig as well. The Pinto Bean's not going to be in there to help you this week. So I don't know, anyone in Ottawa, are you interested in Tarasenko at all, Nate?
I mean, I guess just because
Yeah.
I kind of have to be. He does have 3 goals, 4 points in his last 5 here, but he's definitely like he's not in the top power play. He's definitely a secondary option in there, even though he is in the top 6. So, um, yeah, I'm not excited about Tarasenko, but he's definitely a relatively solid streamer. It's just this week, right? Like
Yeah.
if it was a one of the worst weeks of the year and Ottawa was one of the few teams, then I'd be more excited about Tarasenko for this week. But just given the wealth of other options that we have for this week, Tarasenko's probably not even cracking the top 10.
Yep. No, so true. And they have kind of a killer's row here. They're playing. I mean, they play Colorado, they play Winnipeg and Philly. So those are teams that are not allowing a lot of goals. So, anyways, he's on pace for 61 points. Tarasenko. That's actually surprising. I thought it'd be a little lower than that. So I don't know. That's not too bad. But anyway, let's move on to Seattle. I'm basically going to name the whole team. And Nate, you tell me who you're interested in. All right, we got. Actually, I love Eeli Tolvanen and his line mates, Bjorkstrand. And Yanni Gord, that line, when I dug in a little bit, just they're kind of tilting the ice there at 5-on-5. It's excellent. They're really suppressing chances and they're getting a lot of chances. So I'm definitely interested there, but those guys don't get a ton of ice time, unfortunately. Adam Larson on the back end, Jaden Schwartz, Thomas Tatar is there, and Matty Beniers. Who, if anybody, and Eberle as well, who, if anybody, are you going to grab from Seattle if you're picking a Kraken this week?
Yeah, I mean, the players I like the most are Tolvanen and Bjorkstrand. I dropped Tolvanen right before he went on this bender, so you can thank me for that if you have
I
him.
know.
But yeah, they've been averaging 14 minutes a night, both of them. That's like you're just playing with fire, rostering anybody, no matter how good they are, if they're only getting 14 minutes a night. So that's a little bit disconcerting for sure. Eberle is like the consistent guy who's never gonna like win you a week, but you feel pretty good about his chances of giving you a couple points at the minimum. So there is that out there for sure. Yanni Gord has some pretty solid metrics, and he plays in all situations, so he's a pretty good lock to at least be on the ice. He does have 3 goals, 4 points in his last 5. Overall, I think Tolvanen and Bjorkstrand are still the 2 guys I'm the most interested in, but you do have to definitely temper some expectations because they might get just 14 minutes a night all week, and you just have to deal with that. So.
Yeah. Yeah. Not a nice place to be, especially when you got a good streaming week like this. But I mean, these guys could pop off. So you gotta pick your poison there. And then lastly, why don't we talk about your Toronto Maple Leafs? I don't know. Why don't you run us through Maple Leafs here, buddy? What are you doing with your Leafs?
Yeah, I think Bertuzzi's the top option currently. Playing with Tavares and William Nylander, good spot to be at even strength. He's averaging just under 15 minutes a game. He's got 4 assists, no goals in his last 5. On ice numbers are really solid. 21st in Corsi, 4 per 60, 32nd in scoring chances, 4 per 60. And I mean, he's 78th in shots per 60, so he's at least in a decent spot there, if not a otherworldly spot. So, yeah, that's overall like the best that it really gets. Nyes looks flashy, but his metrics are always pretty terrible. So I can't in good conscience recommend him.
He's saving it
Domi
for the
has,
playoffs.
yeah, I guess. Domi has like the name cachet, but he's never been someone who's actually produced for fantasy purposes. He's on pace for 6 goals on the season, so that's not someone I'm super interested in. I do think Liljegren, I'll talk about him a little bit later, but if you're in a deeper league and you need a defenseman streamer, I think Liljegren is actually worth a look this week. 6th in Corsi, 4 per 60, and scoring chances, 4 per 60 over the last 5 games, and 5th amongst all defensemen in individual scoring chances, 4 per 60. So worth a look there if you need a defenseman in a deep league.
Nice numbers. Cool. All right, let's move on. We got to talk about the next 2 teams here that have a really nice schedule. It's the Chicago Blackhawks and the Detroit Red Wings, both with 3-game weeks, but all 3 are on the off nights. But again, these teams aren't quite as valuable as they would be, right? Because these off nights are, or some of the busy nights are 10-game nights, which you likely are going to be able to get a player in on. So in our show notes here, we've got Chicago and then just the word no. All right, so that that kind of sums it up right there. I mean, I'm not stoked on anybody on Chicago. If Seth Jones is back, I think you could add Seth Jones. That makes sense. I've talked a little bit about Kurashev just because he's getting a ton of minutes and somebody has to score, but literally the guy with the most points on the season or is performing at a fantasy level is Jason Dickinson. What the heck? This is I mean, the Canucks had him. We could have had Jason Dickinson, the one that got away, right? But I don't know. I'm not too stoked on anyone on Chicago. You have anything to add to this, Nate?
No, I was the one who wrote no in there. I am not interested in anyone from Chicago.
Yeah, and that's totally fair. I mean, they do have the Tuesday, Wednesday back to back. So I don't know if Jones is there and you can get him in for the back to back. That's a nice little play, I think. But there's going to be a lot of options for you. So don't tie yourself to these danguses. All right, and then we got to go over to the Detroit Red Wings, and we've got Lucas Raymond on here. He's 53% rostered, but should definitely be owned for this week. He's actually been playing pretty nice here, yeah, like this Detroit has a really good schedule moving forward here. So I like Lucas Raymond and I like David Perron. I picked up Perron in a couple spots early this week. In a couple matchups that I feel confident on because he was really the only Red Wing that was available. And yeah, I was happy to get him because of all the off nights that are coming up. So I got David Perron there, Jake Wallman, JT Compher. Compher's getting some nice deployment. Wallman's still doing stuff weirdly. So I don't know. Where are you at with the Wings here?
Yeah, I mean, if Raymond's there, I'm probably going with him, and then it's Perron Comfort. Yeah, he's physically out there, so we might
Yeah.
get some pucks bounced in off him. Wallman is what he is. He's a guy who provides some decent-ish shots and definitely lots of blocks. And then, yeah, he's probably like a 35 to 40 point defenseman, pacing for 37 on the season currently. So if that's worthwhile in your league, then you can look that way too.
Okay, cool. Let's move on. So we're going to rapid fire these ones because we want to get into the best players to stream here. So there are 4 teams moving on that have 4 games with just 1 off night. And Nate, I'm going to kick to you. I'm going to say the team name. I want you to give me someone that you want to pick up from the team. You ready?
All right.
All right. Colorado Avalanche.
Yeah, I think there's only really one name here currently, and it's got to be Jonathan Drouin. 4 goals, 6 points in his last 5 here, skating 23 and a half minutes a night.
Bang. Love
His
that.
individual metrics are terrible. Like, he's not doing anything personally, but the on ice numbers are terrific, which is kind of exactly what you might expect. 40th in Corsi, 4 per 60, 36th in scoring chances, 4 per 60. As long as he's on power play 1 and line 1, you have to be interested in Drouin. We do have Lehkonen potentially returning, so keep your eyes
Nice.
peeled for that, but Drouin's got to be the guy.
Yeah, absolutely. Drouin reminds me of JT Compher with the Avs last season. It's like, yeah, just pick him up. He's getting 20 minutes a night, with good players, but, the
Yeah.
metrics look terrible. So whatever. LA Kings, Nate. I think I know this one.
Yeah, it's got to be Byfield. I'm souring on Byfield a little bit. I tweeted about it today. He hasn't done much in the last little bit here. I'm still in love with the ceiling. But yeah, if he's out there for this week and he's a good option for you this week, you can definitely give him one more week here if someone's dropped him in your league. Like, the on ice numbers are still okay. 42nd in Corsi, 4 per 60. That's still okay. Skating over 16 minutes a night, still attached to Kopitar, Kempe at even strength, top power play, all that's still there at the moment. So, yeah, the bones are still there, but Byfield is, yeah, I mean, lots of young players go through this, right,
Yeah.
where they have ups and downs to their season. So, do need to see him take another step, but it is tantalizing still, that ceiling that is so obviously there with Byfield.
Yeah, he still looks good out there too, but the shine's off a little bit for fantasy, I think. How about the mighty Montreal Canadiens, Nate? Who are you taking from the Habs?
Yeah, the only option, in my opinion, is Sean Monahan, who's just been solid kind of all year long. He's not really doing a whole lot, but 22 goal, 48 point pace on the season on the top power play, has been there all season long as a fixture. I think if there's anybody from Montreal worth picking up, it's got to be Sean Monahan.
Absolutely. And then the Philly Flyers, who had a great schedule this week. We should be able to roll some of our streamers over to next week. But who's the king of them all?
It's got to be Couturier. He's got 5 points in his last 5 games here, skating over 22 and a half minutes a night, 68th in shots per 60, 71st in individual scoring chances 4 per 60, 22nd in on ice Corsi 4 per 60, and 49th in scoring chances 4 per 60. Underlying metrics are there. He's producing. What's not to love?
Yeah, love it. Fun fact, Nate snaked Sean Couturier away from me in our experts league. I was ready. All right. I was ready at 12 midnight. I had my finger on the button. I pressed hit and it just didn't happen. So I think there was some funny business going on there, Nate. I don't know. Do you still have connections over at Yahoo or what was the situation?
I don't. That would be handy, especially for a lot of my super competitive leagues. But no, unfortunately for you, Blake, it's just the fact that I'm a little bit younger than you. I'm a little bit quicker,
All right. All right.
faster reflexes. So yeah, I was able to get it done.
Suspicious AF. All right. That's all I'm going to say. All right. And then the last couple teams we want to talk about, these teams both have 3 games played with 2 off nights. We'll do the same drill here. 1 player each, Nate. Carolina Hurricanes and the Florida Panthers. Let's start with Carolina.
Carolina, it's got to be Bunting. He's the one on the top power play currently. I'm just not excited about anybody who's not widely rostered on Carolina currently, but guns in my head, got to pick one. It's got to be Bunting.
Oh, God. That's pretty much the only situation I'd ever pick up Michael Bunting, right? If my life was in danger. The Bunt Cake Nate, you got to get on these nicknames. All right. Come on.
Sorry.
Yeah, I can't be the only one getting flack here. All right. Just join me in this. All right. And then in Florida, what are you doing with these units?
In Florida, it's got to be Sam Bennett Tyson. How's
No,
that?
oh yeah, buddy, that's giving me a lot of joy right there, Nate.
All right. Well, yeah, Bennett. I mean, 2 goals, 3 points his last 5 here. Underlying metrics are really solid. Skating 16 minutes a night. Yeah, 26th in individual scoring chances, 4 per 60. It's the best number in his underlying numbers here for the last little bit. He's prone to do that. I think on the season, like he's only pacing for 23 goals, 42 points. I think he's got some room to grow there as Florida has really taken off the last little bit. I think Bennett is the clear one to pick up from Florida currently.
Yeah, absolutely, buddy. And I think he's a must add too. I mean, he's playing with Kachuk. I mean, that might be a little spicy take, but Kachuk's popping off right now. Bennett's right there, right? He's playing with Verhage and Kachuk. That's a good place to be. So,
Absolutely.
yeah. So, anyways, Nate, take us into the best streams, the best players to stream for this week.
All right, so the ranks for point scoring ability at the top of the list, it is going to be Alexis Lafreniere for me, followed closely by Troy Terry and Dawson Mercer. This would probably be kind of my top tier here for the week. These 3 at the top. I do think, like, I do think that Lafreniere is clearly the top for me. Maybe even you could call him a tier above. And then Terry and Mercer, maybe a tier 1B, you might say. But definitely all 3, I feel pretty confident about for next week that they're going to get you some points. Then from there, you go on Mason Marchment. I mean, Marchment has 7 assists in his last 5 games. Like, what's not to love with the production that he's been able to put up recently? The underlying numbers are not all that great, but strike while the iron's hot, I guess, with Marchment. And then going over to the Islanders, yeah, the Islanders do obviously have a better schedule than all the rest of these players, but still, I wouldn't really take Lee or Palmieri above the players that I mentioned before. I guess I would probably put Marchment, Lee, and Palmieri kind of all in a tier together. Obviously, depending on what nights you can get Marchment in for and things like that, you might want to shift these guys around for your specific league and your specific situation. But that's the way I have it ranked currently. Brock Faber, um, I think he's just kind of locked in right now. Even when Spurgeon's back, I'm not sure that Faber's going to give this up, quite honestly, because he's been able to produce. So Faber, I mean, it's shocking to me that he's not like 100% rostered at this point.
Yeah.
He's been playing so well. So if Faber's out there, definitely he's the top defenseman ad. And then at the bottom here, I'm going with Bertuzzi, Tolvanen, and Bjorkstrand. Honestly, once it got past Faber here, you could have given me a half dozen names, and I could have shaken them up and put them together and just gone with whichever way they came out. But yeah, Bertuzzi, Tolvanen, and Bjorkstrand, all definitely worth adding for this week as well.
Yeah, absolutely, buddy. Yeah, I got no notes on that. Besides, I do like Byfield in there, but like you said, I can't blame you. It's such a difficult week here.
For sure. All right, let's roll over to hits and blocks, talk about some bangers. I once I kind of broke down the numbers, like the Nashville Predators don't have a great schedule next week, but if you're just looking for pure hits and you're willing to play this player through all the heavy nights, then Jeremy Lauzon has to be your top player because he's just lapping the field across the NHL in hits right now. So if you're solely looking for hits, I mean, he scored a goal tonight, so like
He
he's
does
doing
that
it a little bit.
occasionally. Yep.
A
Yep.
little bit of that. So anyway, yeah, if you need hits and Jeremy Lauzon is somehow not rostered already, he absolutely has to be rostered. Um, Getting back to more conventional streams, Cal Clutterbuck, obviously from the Islanders with their great schedule. He's near the top of the league in hits over the last 10 games here. Simon Benoit from the Leafs. Yanni Hakanpää, if you picked him up as I did to stream in your Bangers Cats for this week, then you might want to just hang on to him and roll with him for one more week. And then Will Borgen um, from Seattle. Resistance is futile for Borg. So
There
pick
you
up Will
go.
Borgen.
Love
That's the
this.
best I can do for the
That
nickname
that
is
is
like
some of the best work you've done, and I appreciate that. So there you go.
all right. Heading over to blocks, Alexander Romanov from the Islanders, obviously. Again, with that schedule, definitely a good look atop the list there. Labushkin. You got Brock Faber in here. He does that too. Jamie Alexiak from the Kraken, and then Jake Middleton from the Wild. All good options for blocks. Any notes on this, Blake?
No notes, all beefers.
All right. So let's talk then about the best players to add for the future. If you're looking for someone who might be able to stick around on your roster for a little bit longer than just this upcoming week, you're looking for someone to hang on to. I will note that Gabriel Velarde did dip below 50%. And if you're looking for someone to actually hang on to and he did get dropped in your league, then definitely Velarde is someone that I would consider over all these options currently. But atop this list, I still have Nick Schmaltz here. He had actually a really solid night the other night, but the minutes were way down. It's kind of interesting. It seems like they're trying a few different things in Arizona, but he is still playing with Keller on the top line, so I'm not too concerned about that. Down to 23% rostered, so he is widely available. Then Igor Sharangovich. I tweeted about Sharangovich a bit
Mhm.
today. Like, I've just been waiting for the other shoe to drop with Sharangovich this entire time. I've talked about this before, but there are some players where um, really like the production comes first and then the metrics follow after the fact, and that's been the case with Sharangovich, where I wasn't excited because the metrics weren't there, and I was like, we've kind of seen this before, where underlying numbers look good in with the Devils when he got on a top power play for a minute or he played with Jack Hughes for a minute and then always went away every single time. And so I was just not that excited about Sharangovich. I thought it was just another one of these hot streaks where he gets hot and then everything will fall off. But this time he's actually starting to really put together some metrics that sustain this. He's got 6 goals, 7 points in his last five, skating over 19 minutes a night. He's 39th in shots per 60, 10th in individual scoring chances for per 60. He's absolutely doing the thing at this moment. Still only 28% rostered. Has to be rostered in way more leagues, in my opinion. Then moving on, we have Lafreniere who's making this list. I can't hold him off this list anymore. Raquel, he's probably rostered in a lot of active leagues at 45% rostered, but he should be mentioned here for this list of all players under 50% rostered. And then I do have Troy Terry here as well as someone that I think really should be rostered in more leagues at 35% currently. Any thoughts here, Blake? Anybody I'm missing?
No, it's a great list. It's nice to see Sharon Govich in there. I've been seeing lots of tweets about that trade that sent Sharon Govich to the Flames and how people thought it was an L, and it doesn't look like so much of an L now, does it? I might add Sean Couturier in there as well,
Mm-hmm.
just as a player that I think should probably be owned in a lot more teams. But yeah, awesome list. These are units, great players.
Yeah, I will say, like, it was actually pretty hard to put together this list. There's
Yeah.
a lot of players in this, like, I don't know, maybe 30 to 40% range that I think are really exciting options and guys that are probably worth hanging on to in your league. So if those guys are out there for you, you should definitely be looking into it. Sub 20% rostered. I think Sam Bennett has to be the top guy here, especially if you're in any kind of league that values the banger stats. He absolutely does that. Jonathan Druin also fits in here. Obviously, we don't really know when Lehkonen comes back how everything's going to shake out. But if Drouin does stay on top power play, top line all year, like that is within the range of outcomes. And if that does happen, like he does not have to play well for him to be extremely fantasy relevant. So into that as well. And then sub 10% rostered, I am going to go with Matias Michelli. The shots have fallen off in a big way here, but he's still doing all of his crazy assist work. We got a highlight package from Dmitry Filipovich on Twitter this week, and it was just crazy watching this guy
Yeah.
make plays. Has the puck on a string. It reminds me a little bit of like a Mitch Marner in the way that he's able to execute in the offensive zone. So love that player. And yeah, if you're deep diving below 10%, I think you can do a lot worse than Michelli. Any thoughts here, Blake?
You never give any flowers to my man, the Slinky, Daniel Strong. Oh, that 11-minute beauty. This guy. Oh God. Yeah, he played 9 minutes and 39 seconds last game. All right, that show ain't no good, but still, I'm holding till the wheels fall off. You know how we do.
All right. On defense, yeah, Brock Faber has to be the top option here at 41% rostered. This is probably the last week that he's going to be below that number, but definitely has to be rostered more. Matthias Ekholm dipped below 50% here at 48 and definitely should be rostered still, in my opinion. Jamie Drysdale, I actually didn't check. Do you know, Blake, if he was on top power play in the game here tonight?
I
Came
didn't
back.
see.
I
Yeah,
had
but I
full
know.
intentions to check this, but I didn't. It looks like it was Zamula still, and then Drysdale working in on the second unit. So, um, yeah, I think Zamula's in a bit of a hot streak with a couple of power play points this week, but I do think that Drysdale makes the most sense there long term, and he's been playing well. So
Mhm.
that's also a pretty key element, obviously, for anyone that you're looking at potentially hanging on to long term. Yeah, I just think that, yeah, his ice time went up in this game as well, went from 1946 in the first game to 2209. Yeah, I'm just much more interested in Drysdale than pretty much anybody else in Philly, even if Samula stays on the top power play. Then Cam Fowler, as we mentioned, probably not somebody you want to be hanging on to, but I think he is probably going to be someone that you can. And when you tally it all up at the end of the season, there will be some cold streaks and hot streaks throughout. But when you tally it all up, he'll have actually been a pretty solid addition to your points league team at the end of the season. And then Torrey Krug still on here. Obviously, as I mentioned before, Pareko taking some top power play time. You got Falk coming back. Got to see how that all shakes out. But Krug has definitely been playing much better this season and has still been producing like okay in the last little stretch here after he had that big hot stretch earlier on. Moving on to sub 20% rostered, I do have Pareko here as a note as well, obviously dependent on that power play deployment. But I mean, as I mentioned, he fills out all the categories for you. The power play is really just the icing on top of the cake here with Pareko. And then sub 10% rostered, I do have Liljegren here. This recent stretch is really good. Obviously, it's a little bit boosted by the game against San Jose, in which he kind of went off and just like did whatever he wanted because he could, because San Jose doesn't know how to play defense. So take that a little bit with a grain of salt, but I do think that Liljegren has shown a little bit more of that offensive ability that he was projected to have as a prospect. And yeah, came in, had a fairly significant injury this season, starting to come back. I think he can do worse. We've seen the Leafs go away from Morgan Riley on the top power play at times. Liljegren's the guy on the second unit. You know, crazier things have happened as well. If Liljegren ever got a look on the top power play unit, obviously being there in Toronto would be a huge boon. So I think he can do worse. A sub 10% roster for defensemen is an absolute wasteland, and Liljegren is definitely somebody that's actually worth taking a peek at. Any thoughts on this list, Blake?
No, it looks good to me. I'm loving some Ekholm, and I'm gonna keep riding that. This guy's really been getting it done for me. I got him in Cupful.
All right. Moving on to the goalies. Alex Lyon, 45% rostered currently. Like, I'm really questioning whether Ville Husso is going to come back and actually take away starts from Lyon in a meaningful manner. Like, at worst, I think it's like a 1A, 1B situation at this point. Lyon's just outplayed him completely this season, in my opinion. Charlie Lindgren at 36% rostered. I think it's, again, probably going to be a split between him and Kemper. Kemper's played better but also not terrific. So, and I think it'll just be a little bit of back and forth there between him and Kemper. And then Sam Montembeault has actually started to get a few more of the starts there in Montreal. They had been running like a full-on three-headed tandem and just every third start kind of thing. Montembeault started to pull ahead in that regard and actually get some more starts there. So if your league values a ton of saves, then I mean the Canadians are going to get outshot a lot, and Montembeault is going to have to make a lot of stops. So I think that's a viable option at 25% rostered. And then sub 25% rostered, I got Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen here. And as we mentioned, Buffalo actually looking pretty solid in terms of the defensive structure that they're starting to build there. They haven't been able to get the results mostly because the goalies have not been great. But you look at the last three starts here for Luukkonen. He had a 3-2 win against Columbus, let in 2 goals on 20 shots. Then he came back and had a 3-1 win against Pittsburgh, where he only allowed 1 goal on 41 shots. And then he had another win in his most recent outing there against Ottawa, where he allowed 3 goals on 28 shots. And then I did see a tweet today that he was working in the starter's crease again, which might mean that he's actually getting a second start in a row for the first time in a while against Vancouver. I mean, that particular start you might not be so interested in against Vancouver because Vancouver's lit up a few unsuspecting goalies this year. But if that's the way they're going to view Luukkonen moving forward as a bit more of a 1A in that kind of rotation, then that might be a player, given the defensive structure, that you might want to actually look at. Any thoughts, Blake?
Yeah, no, it's interesting about UPL. Like, I really think, I mean, I have for a little while that Levi is the guy, but I think they're just waiting for someone to just take the reins. And looks like UPL is having the better performances here. So yeah, I think that's a reasonable ad. But yeah, it's getting slim. To me, Charlie Lindgren's the 0G guy that I'm interested in here the most.
All right. Well, that wraps that up. So that means we have to get into the head-to-head streamer deathmatch. Blake's up 7-5 on the season, but I'm in the midst of a solid week this week. I've got Tyler Seguin for this week. He's got Alexis Lafreniere. Lafreniere is having a good week. He's only played 2 games. He's got the Saturday-Sunday back-to-back yet to come here, but he's got 11.5 couple points in 2 games, which in most weeks he'd probably be up in the lead. But I've got Tyler Seguin, who's got 21.5 couple points in 3 games so far. So I'm loving life. I don't want to jinx anything. I'll obviously tally it all up on Sunday, but it's been going good, to say the least, for this week. So this week, Blake, I believe it is your turn to pick first. Who will be your pick for week 15?
You know what? I really feel confident that I'm going to take this week with Alexis Lafreniere. So you know what? I'm just going to roll him over to the next week. I'm going to go 2 weeks in a row with Alexis Lafreniere. Book it. All right. This man's going to take me to the promised land.
All right. Alexis Lafreniere again. Just copying my homework, taking my top ranked points player for the week.
I took him
I
first.
see how it
Mate.
is.
I took him first. All right. So who's copying who? Come on, let's get real.
All right. Yeah, so for me, kind of as I mentioned before, the other 2 guys that I'm the most interested in there would be Troy Terry and Dawson Mercer. I guess, since for this, we kind of look at all the teams with 4 games played, even if they don't have the off nights, because it's hard to, it's kind of hard to police how many off nights each player should get. You could expand it to a guy like Jonathan Drouin, but you do have the uncertainty there. So I think in the end it does come back down to a thought between Terry or Mercer. I think I'm gonna I had Terry ranked higher initially on this list, but I think I'm gonna go back to Mercer here. I think he's gonna get like 20 plus minutes for this next week. And yeah, he's going to play top line, top power play, then I'm into that. So I'm going to roll with Dawson Mercer for a week. Hopefully he doesn't let me down. All right, Blake, we made it to the end of this one. That's going to be all we got for this episode. Hopefully it brought you some value, helped you get a little bit better at fantasy hockey today. All the advanced stats you heard today came from Natural Stat Trick, which is a terrific free resource. Many thanks to the band there for supplying the music for this podcast. Be sure to check out their Spotify as well. Thanks for listening, folks. Much love.